Are you ever afraid your brain's broken?
Hey, I can see my house from here.
We were at Plato a little while ago, and one of the things that Plato believed was that rationality could set us free. However, can it?
Let's talk cognitive biases. The first thing I need to let you know is a lot of this came from a TED talk that Harvard psychologist Dan Gilbert gave. Why we make bad decisions. I'm not going to force you to watch it here because it is a little bit on the long side, but I will put the link in Blackboard because it's well worth your time. After seeing this, I bought his book, Stumbling into Happiness, and it really changed a lot about how I thought about people, how I thought about rationality. His thesis is that we make bad decisions because our brain is not really wired to think logically. Cognitive biases are tendencies or patterns of systematic errors that deviate from rationality, things that affect how we make decisions, how we act, how we judge, how we remember things. Humans didn't evolve to think completely rationally. We have to do shortcuts in our mind. When we have a dangerous situation, we don't have time to sift through all the possibilities. So, over the eons, we have come up with certain shortcuts. Giant saber-toothed tiger is coming and running towards us. Do we immediately think that it's going to be our friend and want to cuddle? No, we run. We tend to flee from threats. That's good in that case, but when you apply rules of thumb to things that don't fit, you end up seeing the world wrong. You end up making decisions about the world wrong. Cognitive biases can be good, but in terms of pure rationality, they can work against us. And there's a lot of reasons for why we have these cognitive biases. But a common theory at this point in time is that a lot of them evolved from behavior that was required of us a couple thousand years ago that evolution hasn't caught up to. Society is simply changing faster than humans can evolve to completely adapt to it. A lot of our thinking is still rooted in hunter-gatherer societies. So we think a lot in terms that originate from hunter-gatherer societies, but we're not living in them anymore. And our mind hasn't quite caught up. This means that while cognitive biases can help us in some circumstances, we're often thinking about the world in a way which is obsolete. Let's give you an example of a cognitive bias at work. Say you wanted to host a big dinner party and you know you need to go get some wine. And you go to the store and you see a bottle of $8 wine, a bottle of $27 wine, and a bottle of $33 wine. The way we think dictates that we're going to get the middle one. We don't want to get the absolute cheapest wine because that's going to make us look cheap to our guests. On the other hand, we can't afford to always get high end stuff, so we're not going to get the highest end wine. We're going to get the one in the middle. Thing is, retailers know this, and if you're running a wine store, you're going to have some much more expensive wines. There's a $51 bottle of wine that's going to make that $33 bottle of wine look a lot more attractive and more people will buy it. They might never sell that $51 bottle of wine, but it will do its job in raising the average amount of money that other people will spend. What's going on here is we're having a weird perception of value. We are not really getting the true value of things. We're going by comparison's sake, but comparisons don't always work for us. Another example, and this one is also from the Dan Gilbert video. You were offered a choice of two income streams. The first one, you get 60,000 in year one. You get 50,000 in year two. You get 40,000 in year three. Or you could start off at 35, move to 45, and then move to 55 in year three. Which one of these two would you take? Now, the first blush answer is I'm going to want the one where my money goes up because we have an idea that increasing is better than decreasing. However, if you add up the money you'd get, you're actually a lot better off if you go with the decreasing income because it yields more money at the end. We think immediately, more is better, not less. And we get tricked by the amount of increase. It keeps us from seeing absolute value. The formula that you can work is expected value is the odds of gain times the value of gain. An example, again, from the video. Say there was a lottery. There were 10 tickets, cost $1 to play, and whoever's ticket was pulled would win $20. There's 9 other people who already have tickets. Do you want the last ticket for $1? Well, this is a good deal because for a $1 investment, you could win $20. If you plug that into the formula, this comes up as, oh yeah, do it. However, if one guy owns 9 tickets and you get the option to buy one for the $20 payoff, you're much less likely to buy this one ticket because it's not as easy to see yourself winning. In the other version, there were a total of 10 people who'd have tickets if you bought one. Your odds were winning were 1 in 10. That sounds pretty good. In this one, you're less likely than this guy to win, but your odds are still the same. Our mind focuses on the fact that this guy's probably going to win, so why should we bother? Even though the odds haven't changed from the previous one. This is an example of a cognitive bias. There are multiple types of cognitive biases, so let's go through some of the biggies. The anchoring bias. Number one, people are over-reliant on the first piece of information they hear. And they base all their decisions starting on that. You can understand how this one developed. We have to start somewhere, and the first thing is going to stick into our mind in a certain way. But that means if we're negotiating for, say, a salary, whoever makes the first offer is going to establish the realm of possibilities. If I say, we're going to start you off at 50,000, it's very hard for you to then go to 70,000. Does it really change how things work? Well, it changes the mental option of it, but that's about it. Availability heuristic. People overestimate the importance of information that's available to them. If I see something personally, therefore it must be more true than something I read. The example this graphic gives is that smoking can't. I knew this guy who lived to be 100 and he smoked 3 packs a day. That's going to trump the statistics. Unfortunately, right now we're seeing a lot of that, and people is like, COVID can't be a big threat. I don't know anyone who's had it. Meanwhile, we have passed 200,000 deaths in America. It's ugly. The bandwagon effect. You're more likely to hold an opinion if more people hold that opinion. We want to go around with the crowd. We don't want to be the outlier. Doesn't matter if their belief isn't as good as the lone dissenting belief. We're probably going to go with the people who have the most supporters. And the idea being there, well, these people must know something. Well, no, they don't, but this is how we think. Blind spot bias. Failing to recognize your own cognitive biases is the bias itself. If you think you never make any of these decisions, but I never overestimate the importance of firsthand experience, well, there you go. Choice supportive bias. If you choose something, you tend to feel positive about it, even if your choice has flaws. You buy a car. You're going to like your type of car a lot more than the car you didn't buy, even if your car isn't actually as good. Clustering illusion. We tend to see patterns in random events. If someone is gambling, they'll talk about, well, the odds are about to turn in my favor. No, they're not. If you lose 5 poker games in a row, that doesn't mean you're going to win the 6. Odds don't work that way, but we think they do. Confirmation bias. When we're doing research or listening to information, if it agrees with what we already think, then we're going to be more likely to believe it and put more importance to it. It's very hard to convince somebody who doesn't think a particular way that their thinking is wrong. They're going to believe people who agree with them a lot more than people who disagree with them. Conservatism bias, where people favor prior evidence over new evidence or information that has emerged. More people have historically believed that, and you're telling me something new? It can't be true. And that's not really the way you should make a judgment, because it's a more reasonable explanation. But that's not how we do things. The great example of this comes from ecology. It's called the tragedy of the commons. Imagine an open pasture shared by multiple cattle owners. Each owner increases their herd to maximize the benefit. If every owner uses X number of cattle, the space could self-sustain. It can grow back, and everybody would be able to continually, repeatedly, throughout the years, partake in their share of the resources. So it makes sense that everybody would only bring in their share, right? Well, people don't do that. People instead will maximize their own share beyond any sustainable level. They'll bring in more and more cow. It might not last as long, but what the heck? I'll get more value than anyone else. There's a problem with that, is because in the long term, you end up destroying the thing that you got value from. And instead of building a sustainable business that can last for however many years, you get short-term gain and then you get nothing. There are people who believe that Walmart operates exactly on this principle. They go into a town, they give lower prices, everyone starts shopping there, local businesses die out. The economy gets depressed because all these businesses are dying out. And when the town can no longer support Walmart, Walmart closes and leaves. Do we really think this way? Is this just some story that we tell each other? We're truly more logical than that, right? Well, the real life example of this is dorm bathrooms. Everybody in a dorm has an incentive to keep the bathroom clean, to not mess it up. If everybody did that, it would not be a disgusting place. It would be shiny. Does everybody do that? Of course not. There are always people who mess it up. Even though it works against their own interest. They think about the short term, I don't want to wipe up this. Instead of thinking about, I want a clean bathroom for all my time here. Dorm bathrooms are a good example of why we don't think logically. Incidentally, I should tell you something. The tragedy of the commons is a long-time ecological thought experiment. It gets used in ecology all the time, and it's expanded into other fields because people think it gets at a real truth on how we actually act against our own best interests. And in many ways it does. But I remember reading a story about a month ago that the person who came up with the tragedy of commons actually came up with it to not explain why people won't take care of their stuff, but why minorities won't take care of their stuff. Yeah, he was a racist. Fun. But the dorm bathroom one still holds true, right?
One of the greatest things I have seen recently is I saw a picture of this billboard. It was by an organization which was trying to get men to do more physical checkups to catch diseases before they start. And the headline was that this year 10,000 men will die of stubbornness. And someone spray painted underneath, no, he won't. Are we able to be logical? It would be nice if we knew, but since we have brains that don't always work accurately, the best we can really do is be aware of it. But you really have to look for the stuff in the work of other people. Makes sense. See you next video.